Hello, welcome back to another episode of Smart Stack. I'm one of your hosts, Tom, joined as always, by Massimo. How are you?
Great.
No
Weather's
race this
good.
weekend? Yeah.
No,
No disappointment this weekend, so that's good.
yeah, unfortunately, that's the name of the game for my team this year. But yeah, no race this weekend, so I can stay at least even in my emotions instead of being down.
Even
So
keel, yeah. Yeah. Leafs lost on Friday in OT. I didn't watch it, but I think people are kind of bummed. But they play again
yeah,
today, so we'll see. So we'll
it's
see.
2-1 now, right?
Yeah, two on now.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, yeah, let's get into it here. I mean, yeah, this time we took a look at tools that we've been familiar with for a long time. I'd say probably 5 years, but I guess never really done a super deep dive. And I think when you get into the tool, you'll see where there's a basic functionality, which is honestly sometimes all you need. And in our case, it has been all you need. But we kind of looked at each other and said, okay, well, there's a lot of these different tools out there now, more and more popping up. There must be some differences. So let's get into it and try to really figure out what those differences are and why you choose one or the other. And so that's really the idea today. So the tools we're talking about are these calendar scheduling tools, right? So Mass, I don't know if you want to explain the concept at a super high level,
Yeah.
just like base features.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they kind of really became popular well before COVID, but I think they really took off during COVID with the everyone at home and Zoom. But it's the idea of basically connecting a tool to your calendar. Typically, Gmail or Outlook are the two big ones. It will now look at your calendar to see when you have time during the day. And it will present that tool to a client where they can choose a time to work with you. So if you think about the traditional scenario when you're emailing a client saying, "Hey, are you free at 2 or 5 on Thursday and Friday?" Now you don't have to do that anymore. You, as the person, give a link to the client saying, "Book a time with me here." The client opens up the link and it shows a live view of your calendar so you don't have to go back and forth 3 times.
Yeah, you
There's a
say, "Oh,
lot
I'm
more to
available
it now.
Thursday," and they say, "Well, no, Thursday's no longer there." Okay, and then it's
Yeah.
2 weeks later, and yeah, it's yeah. I mean, yeah. Obviously, like I said, we've used these types of tools for a long time on both ends, right? Both as we give out links to a bunch of our clients, our partners, but also on the receiving end, we get them a lot too. And I like it on both ends, honestly. I think it's nice to give them out because, yeah, what you described, the back and forth, but even receiving I mean, same idea, no back and forth, but I can just open my calendar, pick a time, easy peasy, and it's done, right? So I think it's really nice for both. I think it's one of these things where it's a super simple concept, really, where like someone looking at it be like, I could make that software tool in a weekend. I don't know, not me personally, but maybe some you know, I guess savvy coders out there might be able to do so. So, it is simple, a simple idea at least. And so I think that's why we wanted to dive into this to say, okay, how can you take this simple idea and what kind of flares and embellishments and I guess just more like value adds you can add to it and how do you really differentiate in this space? Because obviously, like I said, there are a lot of players, a lot of really big companies doing this. What are they doing differently? So maybe you can start, Mass. I mean, I think you took on an angle of a tool that maybe a little less familiar, a little less popular, but kind
Yeah.
of up and
Yeah.
coming.
Yeah, so it has been around for a while, maybe 8 or 9 years now. It's called Acuity Scheduling. Some may know it as Acuity. I think it used to be called that before it was bought. It was bought by Squarespace, which is a large, kind of like WordPress, like a drag and drop website
CMS.
builder. Yeah,
Yeah.
CMS. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, as Tom said, these tools are used to give out a link and schedule a time. Squarespace does exactly that. I don't think it was the first mover. The one Tom will be talking about today was, I believe, but they took an interesting angle here. So, and this is probably why Squarespace bought them. And so, what Acuity does, it does the simple thing, lets you integrate your Google or Outlook calendar, lets you set up times. I want a 15-minute slot, a 30-minute slot, a 1 hour slot, etc. But probably the most unique part about it is they're very focused on service-based businesses. And so it's like salons,
Nail salon. Okay.
accountants,
Yeah.
hair salons,
Hair
whatever.
salon. Yeah.
And because of that, they went sort of a different angle than Calendly. So to start, it's very customizable in terms of interface and look
Okay.
because it's your business and your first point of contact with the client. Like a
And I
lot of
guess that
these,
makes sense, like to be embedded in a website, right? Which is also fully
yeah,
customizable. They probably use the similar tech between the two different platforms, right? Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
if you think of a lot of these places, a lot of modern or a lot in general, hairdressers and all that, your first point of contact is this tool to schedule a time. Like it's very rare that you call them now and say, "Are you free at 3?"
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
almost always an online. So they made it very customizable to the like colors, the layout, the look. You can even add your own CSS and HTML to it,
Wow.
which for
Okay.
nerdy
Yeah.
people, like you can make it look like whatever you want.
It's kind of like the look and feel, right? It's like the fonts and the colors and
Yeah.
the yeah.
Yeah. And so the next thing I thought was interesting because we use a Calendly-esque tool that's pretty straightforward. So this was different for me. They have an online booking, or they call it intake form, which isn't really unique, I guess. But where I saw it was different was this can be a pretty robust form with many custom fields, drop downs, multi-lines, etc., that you force a client to fill out on their first time or on their second time or every time
Mm,
prior to booking a meeting with you. And I thought that was interesting as well. A lot of the other tools I've seen, it's kind of like when you choose a half-hour slot, it pops up two custom fields like name, phone number, and
name, yeah.
maybe one more like what length of haircut do you
So
want?
what? Yeah, yeah, you can do that. So what's the use case, I guess, for that? Like, what kind of like would you do like a full? Okay, the hair salon example. It's like, okay, are you looking? What are you looking for? A cut and a color? Hey, I don't know what
Honestly,
else you would ask about a hair
the
salon,
example
but
I
yeah.
saw was for a mechanic.
Oh, okay.
And the mechanic wanted to know the make and the model and the
Mm,
year and last
sure.
service and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So you kind of get the idea, but it's also like more than just a couple fields. Like it could be 10 to 20 pretty easily. So I thought that was definitely interesting. And then
Mm,
I mean, the last part that I thought was really unique in their world was because it's like the front facing tool for your business in many ways. They actually allow to collect payments, which I think yours
oh,
does too, but
yeah.
this is something that they really push for a salon
Yeah.
or a mechanic or whatever small business. You may not have like a robust point of sale service integrated with credit cards and stuff. So
Fully integrated this, that.
yeah. And
Yeah.
you may only take 10 appointments a day. You're a small business in a small town or whatever. This tool actually allows you to collect payments through credit card, but then it actually allows you to store the payments, the receipts, process refunds. And so it kind of becomes your
Is it
point of
like your
sale.
accounting
Yeah,
software?
yeah.
I mean, will it
You
like generate a P&L or something like that?
No.
Like,
So
okay,
it
yeah,
did have integrations with QuickBooks and FreshBooks and stuff like that. So I would say, but for a lot of these small businesses, they probably just export that once a year and give it to an accountant or whatever.
sure, yeah,
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 but
maybe,
the
maybe, yeah, yeah,
the main thing I thought was interesting was they have like they almost become like the face of your business from booking to maybe not reconciliation, but like credit card
yeah. To
processing. Where
settlement, right, or
yeah.
whatever. Yeah,
And a lot of these
yeah,
tools don't do that. And so it's a wrinkle. It's an interesting one. It does make it a bit more complicated, but I would assume based on who they're targeting, this is really valuable because now
yeah,
it's like, I don't have to worry about having something at my desk. I don't have to worry about calling payment providers. Like I sign up with Acuity, someone books a time, it's all paid for before they walk in my door.
yeah,
So that was
right.
definitely different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, what would be the alternative? Obviously, is to say, okay, well, I saw, yeah, I did Calendly, and I'll get into that in a sec, but they're just, bare bones, so simple, just here, what's your name, what's your email, what's your phone number, book a time, sort of thing. So, both the kind of flares that I guess you've talked about is the form at the beginning, right? And then the payments at the end. So let's just say you were using Calendly and you want to do those things. I guess you'd have to have a separate form, right? I guess you'd have to, okay, go out, book the time, and then, hey, once the time's booked,
In the automation or
you
something.
send an automation or something like that. Yeah, so a little less integrated. Now, pros and cons with that too, I guess, right? Because if you're throwing a big form in front of the appointment page, people might get frustrated on that form. Just be like,
Yeah.
I just want an appointment. I
Yeah.
just want to talk to someone, right? Which is always a struggle we talk about in our business. Is like, okay, how much data do you collect? Obviously, that's important for us as a business, but not too much to frustrate the customer, right?
Yeah, I think the maybe the big way of thinking about it is like Calendly and most of the other tools are for scheduling meetings at the right time. This is almost like completing a transaction in a way where it's like I need to fill out this form so that I pay the right price to get my car fixed or my hair cut or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely pros and cons. And I was honestly really surprised. I didn't know any of these guys were doing it, but it kind of makes sense when you zoom out where it's like a website company owns this.
Yeah,
Their target
in
market
that
is
context, it makes a
probably
lot of sense. Yeah,
these hairdressers and stuff. I would assume Squarespace caters to small business. And now it's like I have my Squarespace website and built in I can collect payments and schedule time.
yeah,
I've got my business. I can start
Yeah,
tomorrow,
exactly.
right?
Yeah,
So
like what we just described. Oh, some automation that gets sent out after the meeting is booked that says, hey, fill out this form. Like even those couple steps, those are tricky, right? You got to set up
yeah,
a Zap, you got to create a form somewhere, you got to do this. Yeah, I mean, totally get it. Yeah, okay. And I mean, honestly, the same, I guess, comment or I don't want to say criticism, but yeah, comment, let's say, on the accounting side, which is like, okay, cool, but like, what if you do have a QuickBooks and how well does it integrate? Where are you looking now to figure out if someone's paid? Is it in QuickBooks or is it here? So, yeah, I think it's one of those things. If you're a lightweight business who doesn't might not even have QuickBooks, like you said, maybe just I don't know, export it to PDF and print it off. Probably amazing. But if you do have these QuickBooks and these more advanced tools, it gets a little the lines get blurred, I guess, right?
yeah. Actually, I'm just looking now in it, and you do have revenue reports, but yeah, you have to export anything to actually do accounting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, unless you had something else, I'll kind of
No,
quickly run through mine and then we can just kind of, I guess,
yeah,
battle it out once and for all. But yes, I did, you smile. I did Calendly, right? So we've talked about it a couple times. And Calendly, I don't know if they invented the concept. Probably not.
I
I
think
didn't.
of them as the first one I remember. But anyways, yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. If I were to guess most of these innovation curves, it's not necessarily the person who invents it that becomes, the winner, so to speak. And I think Calendly is right now at least the winner in this space. But it's the one who can make it most, accessible to the masses, right? And I think that's what they've done well, just looking at what they do. So same idea. You can log in, you can create your links, different types of meetings. So you're right, it's not like appointments, it's more meetings. So they had like one-on-one meetings and they also had group meetings, right? So maybe that's a little closer to like a class or a webinar where multiple people can join the same meeting. And then once that's set up, well, maybe before that's set up, you can integrate your calendar to set up conflicts and things like that. So what was really interesting to me was they only integrate, even though being the leaders in the space, they only integrate with Google and Outlook, right? And I don't know, there's probably a lot of other calendars out there. iCal, I think Yahoo has a calendar. We use Zoho Calendar. There's probably a long, long tail of a bunch of different integrations, or sorry, I should say calendars. But I thought it was really interesting that they only chose to go after these two, right? And I think that speaks to, I guess, just the overall thesis, or I guess ethos, so to speak, of Calendly, it seems, which is we're not going to do everything, right? So you talked about like Acuity where it does all this stuff. It has a little bit of a form thing, which I'll talk about in a second, but it doesn't really feature at least the invoicing. I didn't actually see it on there. I was just clicking around, of course, for a couple hours. That didn't pop in my face at the very least, the invoicing stuff. You could have many, I don't know, more complex or interesting types of meetings. They only do two. You'd have a ton of calendars. They only do two. And I think it just speaks to saying, they said, hey, there's a million things we could do, but we've decided to just focus on this narrow range, which is going to capture 80% of the market, and we're just going to do it so well. And I think, it speaks to, I talked about us being both people who use these types of tools. We use Zoho bookings, but also people on the other end who have booked meetings through these tools. And me personally, I think I've used Calendly a bunch, the HubSpot one a bunch, and I love Calendly, right? Like when I get it, I'm like, okay, clean interface, it's good, and I know it's going to go in my calendar properly. I know I'm going to get a reminder. I know nothing's going to mess up. It's just going to work, right? Which is which sounds funny to say, but it's sometimes, right? That's the bar, and it's it seems, yeah, again, kind of funny to just say, oh, that's the bar that should be set, but it is, right? Because yeah, I mean, I know a lot of these that, especially the HubSpot one, even like massive company. I don't want to pick on them, but sometimes that doesn't go on my calendar. I'm like, what's going on? So, I think they've done that. They've done very, very narrow, but they've just done it so well. And it's a good, I guess, example of what it takes to be a leader in a space, right? Is just to get the, I guess you could say, trust of the users, but also, I guess, when you do it so narrow, the user interface, and something we go on and on about in our business because we build software too, is that it needs to be so clean, right? And that when you click around, there's no ambiguity of where you need to go. And if a user, if someone using, let's say, Calendly, misclicks or picks the wrong space or doesn't know where to go, Calendly probably looks at that as a failure on their part, right? To say, hey, our user interface isn't good enough. It's confused someone. Let's make it better. And that's why it's, I think, today so clean and very easy to follow. I thought that just stood out to me like, I don't know if a sore thumb is the right analogy, but yeah, it just really stuck out to me when I was going through it. I guess just a couple things though, in terms of a couple kind of interesting things to look at. So integrations, they do integrate calendar-wise, Google and Outlook. They do integrate with Zoom and some of these other tools to actually set up the links. They do integrate with CRMs, so only HubSpot and Salesforce though. So again, it kind of speaks to that simple approach. Pros and cons with that, obviously, because unlike calendars, I think Google and Outlook is like 80% of 90% of all calendars out there. Whereas I think the CRM space is much more fragmented. But we won't go
Yeah.
down that rabbit hole too much. But other things they do is they do have a light workflow builder. So this is really simple stuff, which is, and you can only choose like 5 options. It's like send the invitee an email, send me an email, send someone else an email, or send me a text or send the invitee a text. So there's 5 things you can do in these workflows. So again, simplicity. But you can say, okay, do that an hour before, or do it 2 hours before, or do it if they cancel. So you can just kind of set up these automated things. So you're getting notified and your invitees are getting notified. So that was cool. And the only thing that I think is actually kind of innovative and maybe something where they flare out a little bit is they've chosen to do kind of this routing type tool. So a little bit like what you described there, where there is a form builder, but it's not about, what to invoice or when you should, book your time. It's more about like a prioritization exercise. So the example I saw was you can set up like a little form and there are, you can put a name and email and drop downs. But let's just say you're a company that's selling software. When someone's trying to book a meeting with you, you can first ask them, hey, how big is your company? Right? Is there 1 employee? Is it 10 employees? Is it 100 employees? And then based on that, you can choose which meeting to go to. And that obviously makes a lot of sense when you have a big sales team, right? It's like, oh, this is a 1,000 user account. Okay, send in our big dog, right? send in the sales leader. But if it's okay, a 1 user account, hey, maybe it's a more junior person who, they can train on this. So that was kind of cool. And, I was able to test that out and it works pretty well. It works as you expect. And yeah, so I'll pause there, I guess. And then just, like I said, super simple, done a couple kind of interesting things just to make the user experience a little bit better, but honestly, they just plain Jane and it just works, right? And I did really like my experience using it.
Yeah. And I mean, it probably speaks to the fact that, I mean, more people, I would assume, know Calendly over Acuity. I think Acuity is just a piece of Squarespace now. I think Calendly is about to IPO, or there's rumors of that. So like
Yeah,
they've
they are
taken,
private. I did see
yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah,
they've taken that simplicity to a very, I mean, they're probably hundreds of millions a year at this point.
yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
I mean, yeah,
I was just gonna say it's interesting though that I think maybe the reason they've been able to say so simple is because they've been private in a sense, right? Because I do
true.
think,
You
yeah,
start,
IPO, and now Wall Street's like, okay, where else can you find revenue? Okay, oh,
Zoom's the best example of that I use every day.
which one?
Okay. Zoom.
Well, yeah,
They
oh,
now have like
exactly, right. Yeah,
Zoom phone, Zoom. They have like Zoom email they just brought out, Zoom notes,
they have a
Zoom.
Zoom competitor for Calendly. When I Googled Calendly,
Really?
Zoom came up was like Zoom Scheduler. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
come on, guys.
So that'll probably happen. You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
Now Zoom maybe has avoided the curse of stuff stops working when you do too much, but I think they're at a real risk, right? When you have 100 different features, the
Yeah.
odds of one of them breaking are start to creep up there.
I think it's also very important what you said. I have the same feeling too when a lot of these tools, and now we're kind of cursed because we're on an email client that isn't the most popular, but we won't get into that in our other job. But like I have the curse where it's like when I book something that's in Acuity or something else, well, actually not Acuity, but something else, it's like I have to double check if it goes in my calendar.
Yeah,
I never
totally,
even think of that when I'm in a Calendly page. I just know
totally.
it will.
It's
So
just gonna
there's
work
some value
exactly.
there, or
Yeah,
a lot of value there. They figured out how to integrate with every calendar with these ICS invites or whatever they're called. It always works. So, anyways, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, I think the other thing of it always works. Yeah, it's nice for the client, but it also always works if you're using a Google Calendar, checking conflicts, right?
Yeah, true.
That's from the user experience perspective, or yeah, the person sending the link. It's like I know that if I have something in my Google Calendar, someone's not going to book a meeting at that time. Like
Yeah.
it's just going to work, right?
Even if it's recurring.
Even if it's recurring, even if you're not the host, right? Because we have problems with that. If I'm just an invitee to a meeting, if someone outside my organization invited me to this, it's going to, have issues. So there's all these use cases where I know me and you, we need to check because we don't trust our booking tool. But Calendly's got that figured out. And so what's the value of your peace of mind? Well, it's probably the premium that Calendly charges over everybody else, right? Which is, we didn't really get into pricing too much.
Mine's $20 a month it starts at. So it might actually be more
Yeah,
expensive
Calendly's
than
about the
Calendar.
same, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, in any case, right, you're getting, instead of getting all these fancy features like invoicing and forms and this and that, you're getting peace of mind, right? So that's for each person decide what's more valuable. Okay, well, let's wrap up here, I guess, just to maybe close it out. We didn't do our scorecard. You did in the last one, Fathom. I did Fireflies. You got 26 views and 2 likes and no subscribers coming out of that. And for me, I
Oh,
got
it tells you
18
that?
views. Say that again?
It tells you how many subs come
Yeah,
out of the video? Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. It's kind of cool. Eh? I got 18 views, no likes, no subscribers. So you win this week again. What is it, 4-1?
Yeah, I think so.
I gotta I don't know, do something here. I gotta just
You
start
got to do
paying
a
people to
crazy
watch my video.
thumbnail, just like have your shirt off or something, like
Yeah, or
just
the
like the
face where someone's
yeah.
screaming. I gotta do something. Anyways, 4-1. I'm coming back though. Cinderella story here. Oh man. And yeah, well, maybe we'll wrap up there. I mean, what we'll do next week, we never know. We've given up trying to get a guest because we change our mind about 3 times in a week. But yeah, I guess any final thoughts on this mess?
No, I think these both had very different use cases, but I would say if you're a generalist and you just want to book meetings, obviously Calendly is the tool. If you don't want to deal with accounting and you own a little shop that, I don't know, is a hairdresser or something, check out Acuity. It might kill two birds with one stone. I think that's kind of the play there. So, yeah.
Yeah. If you just want to close your eyes and have something work, Calendly's your tool. If you need a little bit more functionality, if you need some help in accounting for whatever else,
Yeah.
Acuity probably makes the most sense. So I
Yeah.
think that's a good summary.
All right. Well,
All right. Well, we'll leave it there. Again, thanks everyone for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week.